Good morning and welcome to Coffee Ann, the longest-running panel discussion show in American radio. To make a comment or ask a question of the panel, call 401-766-1240 or email coffee@woonsocket.radio.com. And now, let's join the Coffee Ann panel.
And good morning. It is Coffee and Time on ON AM and FM, Thursday morning, January 18th. My name is Joe Callahan. Thanks for joining us today at the Coffee and Table to say good morning to Bob Lauder. Hello, Bob.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
And Dave Richards is joining us as well. Good morning to you there, Dave.
Oh, hi there.
Sue Tessier-McKenzie from the Blackstone Valley Call-In-Times has the next couple of weeks off.
Oh,
so
rats. I was hoping to see you today.
She will not be joining us today. That is too bad because she's so fashionable.
She is. Oh, she's that.
Yes.
Always dressed to the nines. It's great.
Looks great.
Sometimes 9.5.
True.
Now,
All right.
I noticed that
Yes, Bob.
Dave is using a iPad of some kind that says on the top of it, ThinkPad.
It's just a...
Now,
It's
I would
it's a
never be able
laptop.
to use that.
No, because you don't think?
That's about it.
That's just a clever name they put on it to make you buy it.
Okay.
Yes. Well, it comes from, this is a Lenovo brand,
Yeah.
which is this, what do they call it? Leveraged buyout of employees of the manufacturing division of IBM. And IBM had this big advertising thing, Think. And
could be lost on
so
me.
they made their
Already lost?
laptops Think Pads.
So you can think while you're typing.
When you and I are talking sports, it would be, for me, it would be dummy pad. Yeah.
Well, anyway. But I do have an opinion. I need your opinion on this, Bob, to see if we got a good lawsuit in the making here.
Oh, good.
All right.
Good.
Now, I don't know if you guys, do you like the shake and bake product? Have you used it in your baking and meal preparation?
Not in 20 or 30 years, but when it first came out, I remember, we used it a couple times, and I admired it. It gave something to the chicken.
Good point. Okay, Bob, do you
I
use it?
remember the commercials from back in the 80s and 90s, but I
never used it.
I don't cook. My wife does the cooking. I don't ask questions. I just see
You
the
just sit
food
and
and I
eat?
say, this is great.
Does she use it?
I don't know.
Do you go to the grocery store with her?
No.
Do you see her buy it?
No.
All right.
I
well,
do,
anyway.
and Denise doesn't buy it.
All right. It's used with chicken and pork.
Okay.
All right. And like when you bought it, or when your family bought it years ago, Dave,
Yeah.
it would come. It's a box, rectangle. And
Right.
it comes with 2 packages of the seasoning, and it came with 2 plastic bags.
In cooking terms, it was called a dredge mix, but they couldn't sell it under that name.
Yeah, that's a lousy name.
Well,
So-
that's what they call it when you coat over your meat.
Okay.
It's a dredge.
And so what you do, Bob, is you cut the package in, you pour it into the plastic bag, you take your piece of meat, your pork chop or your chicken leg or whatever,
Right.
put it in the shake and bake, shake it up, actually literally shake it,
To
Okay.
get the coating all over
put it on
yeah.
the pan, do it with all your pieces of meat, put it in the oven, cook it up, eat it, it's delicious.
Sounds good.
And everything was fine till about 2 or 3 years ago.
When they want to outlaw plastic.
That's right. There's no more plastic bags in the the
Right.
box. So, but they still tell you, put this in a plastic bag of which you don't have to prepare on your own, buy on your own separately. I said, so do we have a good lawsuit to go after the shake and bake people, saying, hey, you've stopped providing what we need to make your product?
I think that's a long stretch, man.
Too bad.
Sure it is.
I think that if you're out there, they're going to be telling you you've baked more than just the product. You've baked something very serious
Like
in
your
your
brain?
cranium.
All right. Well, but they tell you, put it in a plastic bag. We used to provide it, but we don't anymore. And no reason other than the plastic bag police are coming after them and say you can't do this anymore for whatever reason. Okay, go get your own plastic bags. So, which is not what we have to do. You got to get your own.
It must be
I'm
tough
very
living with you,
I'm
man.
very distraught about the whole thing.
Yeah, I can tell.
But it's still there's generic shake and bake too, which also tastes pretty good. You know, Stop and Shop makes their own brand.
Yeah.
Shaw's must make their own brand.
Well, it's just a dredge, is what it is, and it's the same thing
tastes
as when
pretty
you used to take your chicken and roll it, or you had a tray or a bowl of flour.
Yeah.
Baking flour, and you wash the chicken, of course, ahead of time, and you take your
sticks.
chicken leg and you just dip in the bowl and swirl it around until all the flour get on all exterior portions, and then you would take, and then you would either fry that or bake it and stuff. But that's what it is. But this one had spices and herbs and stuff like that, and that's
I really don't want him in the marketing department. I mean, first of all, coming up with hey, we're going to call this product Dredge. Oh, yeah,
Well,
that's going to really get the people.
no, they
involved.
hit it on the top. Shake and bake was what you did with it. Shake your chicken leg, and then in the bag, and so they don't give you the bag anymore. I didn't know that.
Yeah, just the 2 brown bags of the stuff.
Yeah, it used to be 29 cents for a box of shake and bake. What's it now?
More than that.
Yeah.
$1.29 maybe.
With no plastic bag.
And no plastic bag. So we're going to charge you more and give you less.
Okay, but
That's where I think that's where the lawsuit
they
is.
didn't include
Is that a big
having
surprise to
a
anybody?
spoon in there to eat it with either. So I mean,
No,
I don't
because
think
you don't
they're-
need it. You don't need a spoon. You don't need a knife or fork. You can use your hands. Just
Okay.
pick it. It's going to be hot, but pick it up and eat it that way. That's your choice.
Okay, between Dave's marketing idea of calling it Dredge
Yeah.
and your culinary
No,
skills of eating all your
That's not
food
a
with your
marketing
hands.
idea. Wait a minute. You're
I don't know
misquoting
if I
me.
want to be around you guys anymore. Jeez.
If
There
you
must be-
watch the like the pay cable channel, a cooking channel, or one of the channels that do cooking or something like that, and then you were going to coat your chicken with flour or whatever you'd prepared, they would say dredge the chicken, and then put it on the plate to go in the oven. That's the term that they use in that business.
And you're eating with your hands.
As-
I'm leaving. I want to be with people
Eating
who
with your
If it's,
hands.
if it's a chicken,
How else
if it's
do you
a,
do
if it's a-
chicken?
if it's a chicken drumstick, sure.
Oh, you're just limiting it to chicken. Well, I thought you were scooping up things like your mashed potatoes with your hands as
no,
well.
no,
Oh,
no,
gosh,
What
no.
you, no.
All
When you
right.
get to the veggies,
Only when you
pick-
throw them do
pick-
you
pick
scoop
up
them
a-
up with your
pick
hand.
up a fork.
Okay.
All right. Well, okay. I thought
Throw
we
in
had
the food.
Thought we had a good lawsuit going there, but I guess not.
Darn, I think you
Try
got a
again,
better
Joe.
lawyer than me.
Try again.
All right. Well, how about this guy in Woonsocket? Back in November, he allegedly attempts to purchase a semi-automatic
Oh,
handgun
yeah. Oh,
at a
yeah.
place called Big Bear Hunting and Fishing. It's out in Gloucester. I think
Right.
it's on 44.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's out that way, and he was denied because of the national background check, and he's lying on the
Any
application
reputable
form.
store is required to check out. First of all, it's required to have you fill out a form. Then they've got to do a background check on you.
Yeah.
To see whether or not you're wanted, if you're a felon, if you've been accused, and stuff like that. And you've already filled out a form and handed it to them and signed it, attesting that it's true, that you do not have any no contact orders on you or anything else like that. The whole
They
list
do
of things.
the NICS, National Instant Background Check System, immediately flags him, the defendant, because he's prohibited from possessing a firearm. He's been arrested.
Or purchasing a firearm.
Trying to purchase. Yeah.
He's got a no contact order. He's got, what was the litany of things that he was accused of? There was domestic abuse or something like that. There's no contact order with his victim.
Yep.
And you're going to let this person buy a weapon? I don't think so.
So he's going for a pretrial conference on May 1st. What is a pretrial conference, Bob?
A pretrial conference is, well, in the scheme of how criminal cases go, after your arrest, you go into court and you're asked to plead to the case.
Is that your
Now,
arraignment?
That's the
Yeah.
arraignment.
Do you admit
Now,
to the charges or do you contest them?
If the charges are a misdemeanor, then in the district court, you're allowed to plead either guilty, not guilty, nolo, things like that. If it is a felony charge, when you go to district court, which is the first level of the court hearings, they will not allow you to plead guilty. You have to plead not guilty because the case is going to be referred over to the superior court. After you've entered a plea, whether either in the district court or superior court, they usually have a conference between the prosecuting attorney and the defense attorney to see whether or not there is some type of agreement as to penalties that can be worked out between the parties. And if they can, great, then the case goes to a settlement. If they can't, then the case goes on to a trial in the various courts. Usually, the judge is not involved in the pretrial conference. Judge would approve or disapprove the agreement made between the parties later on when it's brought before him. But the judge isn't going to be sitting there saying to the parties, okay, this is a good deal, you should take it, or something like that. No, so the pretrial conference is usually the two attorneys, prosecutor, defendant, discussing in court between themselves and with, of course, their clients, whether or not they're able to find a agreeable resolution to it, so many years in jail, so many years on probation, things like that, or if they can't.
Okay. So let me get your opinion on this. I'd like to see if courtroom dramas on TV get it right or don't get it right.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, courtroom dramas on TV compress into
I
50
know.
minutes, an awful lot of time.
Right. But not that part.
You're
But I've
exaggerating,
seen
Bob.
this-
It's 42 minutes.
Wow.
Forget the
okay.
commercials.
So this is when they show the person going up for their arraignment.
Right.
And sometimes, whatever either the lawyer or the person accused, I know it's done for entertainment purposes. It goes on and on and on. But sometimes the judge will stop them and say, "This is your arraignment. You plead guilty or not guilty. You don't try your case here."
Right.
Have you ever seen in real life where someone tries to try their case at the arraignment?
I have never seen that in a Rhode Island court, which I've been in.
Okay.
But it probably could
It
happen.
must happen.
But in those things you see on television, the judge is basically saying to the individual, don't start talking about your case, because if you're charged
Can it
with
be
an
used?
offense and you suddenly say something before me other than not guilty, I
guilty,
can that can be used by the prosecution against you. If you
Wow.
somehow said implicated yourself by saying you were at the scene of the crime but you weren't the one who shot the gun, okay, you may not be.
Prosecutors are writing that down.
Of course, they're writing it down, and
it's
it's taken down by the court reporter.
It's
and
right
later
there.
on, the prosecution can say, okay, well, you were there, and so we're going to charge you as an accessory to the murder that took place when the gun was fired. I mean, you don't want to say things like that.
And you say, no, I never said I was there. And then they pull up the transcript.
Definitely, they put out the court transcript.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so-
That I've seen, a court transcript being brought before the judge to either impeach or prove the testimony of the witness.
All right. So how about this snowplow driver in North Providence?
Haven't heard about this one.
Oh, he's now he allegedly has struck a woman in the parking lot of the apartment complex he was snowplowing,
Right.
and kills her.
Oh, my goodness.
He's got no license.
Driver's license.
He's got no driver's license, or suspended.
Okay.
He's got no insurance, right, Dave? That was the other thing.
No insurance. Plus, he had no license, no insurance, no registration.
Yeah.
I mean, current registration.
Driving without driving.
If
with
you don't
a
have a
suspended
license, you
there
can't
it is.
register your vehicle.
Yeah, okay.
So
Driving
he doesn't
with a
have any
suspended
registration.
license, no
You don't have any
insurance,
registration, you can't insure it.
Unregistered.
So it's kind of
vehicle.
like they link it all together. So if you lose your license, you can't do the other stuff.
And he's got a long list of other criminal charges from
Yeah.
years past: drug offenses, domestic violence, resisting arrest. He's only 30 years old, so I guess there's a case here.
I think there's
don't know
multiple cases. First of
Yeah.
all, there's probably the case against him for violating the state law by operating the snowplow and not having those particular accreditations. But I also think there's probably going to be a case rolling along against the operator of the landlord for the apartment complex
for hiring him?
hiring somebody who did not have this kind of accreditation.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I would think that many people never ask their snowplow company whether or not they have the right
Prob-
to be
probably
operating
not.
the no.
They
and
just
so-
they just talk price.
Yeah,
How much is it going to cost to do it? Okay, do it.
right.
Wow.
So I think that the apartment complex owners have some problems as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And if I were looking for deep pockets to get some recompense for the fact that the woman was killed,
Yeah.
I would probably be going after the apartment complex because I expect they have much more insurance
Well, it
coverage
looks-
than the snowplow driver.
It looks like this guy is an independent person and doesn't work for a company that plows driveways. He just
Okay.
does it on his own. So there's probably not a lot of money there.
Well, he didn't have insurance, it said.
Right.
So,
Well,
they-
insurance to drive the truck.
Yeah, but most people have insurance in one of several ways. Motor vehicle insurance to cover them for liability for operating a motor vehicle, homeowners insurance, if the house burns down. But very few of us carry other kinds of
Snowplow
overall
insurance,
coverage,
yeah.
umbrella coverage for what we're doing the rest of the time. So I would expect the party for the deceased woman will be looking for some kind of recompense and probably go after the owners of the apartment complex.
All right.
I don't know if they can prove their case, but that would be who I would think they would be
Good place
targeting.
to start. There's 4 people that have filed lawsuits going against Boeing and Air Alaska for the door that fell off.
Right.
So they're going after for all sorts of money and all sorts of mental anguish, and they're scared and anxiety. And I didn't know you could sue for anxiety, but apparently you can.
If anxiety arises as a result of somebody else's negligence, then
Well,
yes,
that's what they're saying.
that's a reasonable claim. You say, hey, I didn't have this problem beforehand because of your negligence. Now I do, and I want to be compensated for having suffered this particular injury.
When I was flying out to St. Louis, the person I was sitting next to, now we were not on Alaska, we were on Southwest, and I agreed with the guy that was sitting next to me. He said, it's the best time to fly is right now, just days or a week after this accident has happened. All the airlines have run out and looked at all their planes to make sure everything is okay.
Yeah.
So all airplanes right now, safe.
The ones that
Perfect
are
time to fly.
correct.
You'd
I understand
expect.
a lot of Boeing's Max jet. I don't remember the exact titles. The style
Max
of aircraft that Max 9.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll understand some of those are still grounded. They're checking them out.
He also said that we were on a Max 700, so we were
Yeah.
pretty happy we didn't have the 900.
Southwest doesn't have the 900s.
No, they have 7s and 8s.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, we're going to take a break here on the Coffee Ant program. More is coming your way. You can call in comments or questions at 766-1240.
Krakow Deli Bakery and Smokehouse offers authentic homemade Polish food to make your next meal real special. Try our many varieties of hot and fresh pierogi with onions and dirty sour cream, or pick up golubki, kielbasa, babkas, or some fresh rye bread. We also offer a large selection of specialty and imported goods. We're open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 9 to 6, Wednesdays 9 to 5, and Saturdays 8 to 5. Follow us on Facebook to learn about our weekly specials. Located at 855 Social Street in Woonsocket, Krakow Deli Bakery and Smokehouse has all the authentic Polish foods you love.
The Coffee Ant panel is enjoying coffee from Down East Coffee Roasters. All their coffee is roasted right here in Rhode Island. Down East Coffee Roasters is available at all Little General stores.
Have you heard of Scott McGee with Remax Properties? He's been selling real estate in Rhode Island and Massachusetts for the last 17 years, and you can see that he loves what he does. Scott, as well as his team, take pride in what they call the fair and honest team. No gimmicks. And no, they're not buying your house if it doesn't sell, etc. Just fair and honest real estate. Scott personally works with tons of sellers and buyers and specializes in residential properties as well as commercial, and he's always very fair and offers super competitive rates. Remember, this is probably the biggest move in dollars that you will ever spend or receive. You want to go with a trusted and experienced agent. Scott is fair, honest, and modest, always puts the clients first. And he also dealt with literally almost any situation. You really need to look at your real estate needs as a business. You want to pay and get the right money now so that you're not paying for it later. Trust me. So why not give Scott McGee a call at 401-639-2906. That's 401-639-2906.
This portion of the Coffee Ant program is sponsored by the Blackstone Valley Call and Times.
You've heard it before. The world is getting smaller. Places you had to travel to years ago now seem right next door. It's no surprise, then, that all the communities of the Blackstone Valley have so much in common these days that we share common interests. Keeping up with this trend, the Blackstone Valley's two daily newspapers, The Call and The Times, have joined forces to cover the entire valley in one convenient newspaper. The Blackstone Valley's Call and Times, a paper for the entire valley. At your local store, honor box, or home delivery, 767-8522.
All right, Joe Callahan here with Dave Richards and Bob Waters with us. Sue Tester McKenzie from the Blackstone Valley Call and Times could not be with us this week. But we got some interesting people coming up on Coffee Ant in the next couple of days, starting tomorrow.
You'll be back again next week, Bob.
I sure
Yeah, I
hope so.
told you,
He's one of
interesting
our
people are
interesting
coming, yeah.
Starting tomorrow, Adam Brunetti will be here. Adam is running for Woonsocket City Council, so we'll find out what he's all about. We've had Adam on before, but this time in a real official capacity as he's trying to get on the Woonsocket City Council. He'll be here from 8 to 8:30. Then next Thursday, when you're back, Bob, Governor Dan McKee joins us in the second half of the program. So hopefully he can be here for at least one question. That would be good.
Great.
When the governor is here, we'll talk about his state of the state and his budget that is coming up. A week from tomorrow, Chris Mellon will be on the Coffee Ant program. Chris is also running in the primary for Woonsocket City Council. So he's a new person that is in the whole political ring. So we'll find out who he is, what he's all about, and why he wants to be on the Woonsocket City Council. And then on Monday, January 29th, we'll have Dan Gendron on, also running for Woonsocket City Council in the primary. And he'll be on from 8 to 8:30. And then from 8:30 to 9, Secretary of State Greg Amore will join us. And we'll find out what's going on with the Secretary of State as well. So we got some
Now,
pretty
when
good stuff
Dan-
lined up.
When Dan's on,
Yes.
make sure you ask about his mom. His mom, Janet, used to work with
that's
me.
right,
She's a fantastic lady.
All right.
And
Good times
you
over
gotta
there.
you gotta bring in some highlights.
Well, we really want to find out why he wants to be on the city council, but we'll ask about his mom.
Good,
and
good.
His dad as well. So let's see. What else is going on? Besides the hit and run,
Yes.
not the hit and run, but the snowplow driver
Right.
hitting the person in North Providence, basically the same thing happened in Rentham, Massachusetts on Route 1 and also killed someone. He was walking along Route 1 on Sunday night when he was hit by a car and then hit by a plow.
Wow.
And the guy in the car took off, but the guy in the plow, he stayed. Yet the guy in the plow, he's got some. Does he have some issues? Anyway,
Now,
it was the guy in the car that took off.
Did they locate
They did find him.
Wow.
He's been charged with leading the scene of an accident and also driving with an expired license. This seems to be the new thing, of which everyone that gets caught doing something wrong, they're on a suspended license or an expired license, and they just say, and no registration. I'm just driving anyway, and I don't care. I'm just seeing a lot more of it in the news.
Well, yeah, the news covers a lot more than it used to, probably because it's so easy nowadays to spread news from areas to areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh well. Well, I know we've had a couple of people from the Woonsocket Police on, and especially Chief Oates has said he's very, very careful as of late when you're coming up to a traffic light, even if your light's green, to slow down. He says there's just a lot more people running red lights.
I remember that.
as of
And
late.
I try to fulfill his instructions.
As soon as I heard that, I said I'm really a lot more careful at intersections because I haven't seen anything yet. I've seen it come close, but not someone that's actually run a red light where I could have gotten a hit.
I've seen people run the red light, but usually it's in the same direction that I'm going, either the lane to the left or to the right of me.
Yeah.
And fortunately, there hasn't been any collisions with cars going in the opposite the diagonal direction. But wow,
Bob, how about this? In Arlington, Virginia, all right? You're familiar with Virginia.
I sure am. I'm licensed to practice law in Virginia.
How far from Arlington was the school?
Arlington is up near Washington, and my school was down in the Shenandoah Valley. It's probably about 150 miles
Oh,
away.
so it's quite a ways.
Yeah.
All right. But federal investigators say a woman from Brazil posed as an immigration attorney and stole about $700,000 from clients, putting a black
Wow.
mark on your occupation.
Wait a minute, man. Black mark on my occupation? My occupation is like ebony. You couldn't see black
You can't get
marks
another
on it.
black
And
mark
we
on
do
it?
good work.
True. Federal grand jury indicted Patricia Lelis Boland last week on charges of wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and unlawful monetary transactions.
Okay.
All right. U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia says she posed as an attorney helping foreign clients get U.S. E2 and EB5 visas
All right.
to get them into the country. I guess that's how that works.
There's very few immigration lawyers that I know of in the state of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And it's, I know I keep saying doesn't license people as specialization, but
they
that
do.
is such, no, they don't license.
Well, they
them.
don't license
But
them,
that is such a very complicated system
Mm-hmm.
that there's very few of us who actually go into it. If I had an immigration case, I know who I'd call down in Providence and say, can you assist the client?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to walk into that kind of a situation. I imagine this person was probably soliciting clients overseas, getting them to pay her significant retainers, and maybe wasn't doing the work thereafter or
Well-
wasn't successful in whatever she was trying to do before the boards.
It doesn't say she wasn't successful in getting these visas for people. It looks like she was charging them an extraordinary amount of money. She allegedly falsified official documents
Okay.
to get them in, and then used the money that the clients were paying her and bought a home in Arlington, and she paid other personal expenses. So she was just living the high life.
Wow.
Off of these people, and maybe they're rich in Brazil and want to come here and they have the money to pay it, so they paid her to. I can get you in. Don't ask me how I'm going to do it.
Good.
It's like Michael Corleone in The Godfather. Don't ask me about my business. I'm just going to get it done, and then we'll move on from there. $700,000 though,
Wow.
pretty sweet deal. But she got caught.
Yeah, but she's got caught. She probably end up with. There's a possibility she's going to go to jail. I don't really want to be living out in the Midwest in Leavenworth with some guy named Bubba in a small cell.
Well, she's not going to be living with some guy named Bubba.
No, probably
maybe Bertha.
not. Bertha, yeah.
All right, let's see. And what else is going on? The House, Rhode Island House, wants to create a state housing development arm. And they're checking with researchers from New York University to examine whether the state should create a housing development section. We need another.
Now, what do they entirely mean by that? What
I
do they
understand
expect?
this, Bob. I can explain.
Try to explain,
Great.
Dave.
Good.
Well, as is the general want of most government, they want to get bigger. Private industry wants to get bigger every year. Government wants to get bigger every year. And along the lines of that, they see a need. They can't seem to get private industry interested in making cheap housing that people can afford, because they make a lot more money doing the other kind of housing. So they pass a bunch of little laws, and then there's a lot of gaming going on, and it's ineffective, and they need a lot more housing than they can get through the private sector. So they are proposing to have the state of Rhode Island become a building contractor to secure land, to build the houses, and then to market the houses or the housing as time goes along, to serve the needs of the public that private industry won't do. The concept is the same as saying, okay, well, there's the private bus companies can't make a living at it anymore, so the state's going to form the transit authority that's going to run a bus company. And so that's what they're talking about doing for housing. Do you understand? Did I explain it well?
And I can see two arguments, one against it and one for it.
Certainly.
The way you phrased it leads me to believe that you have some degree of skepticism regarding the overall plans of government on many issues. Yeah, I think I got that one right.
Well, so Rhode Island's reaching out to New York University. I'm not sure which one. There's a few New York universities, but wherever the Furman Center for Real Estate and Urban Policy is, and they're going to do a 6-month study, all right, of public sector models used to build affordable housing in Maryland, Finland, and Singapore. Okay.
Okay.
Rhode Island says they expressed interest in what the Maryland model will be like, which builds mixed income units through a revolving fund of public money.
I would think that looking into the development in Finland and Singapore, those countries have far different governmental structures than we do here. Mm-hmm. I don't see how that would be a realistic way of trying to evaluate what we should be doing in Rhode Island. The Maryland one, that may
Makes
be.
more sense.
Yeah, but I would think that the government becoming involved in the actual construction of homes is going to be a very expensive and also very complicated system. Mm-hmm. There'll be the questions, first of all, of where are they going to be located, the acquisition of the land on which to build it, the actual construction of the properties, how the government is going to then determine who is the occupants of the properties. This is going to be a load of fun.
Well, the interim report is expected sometime this spring, so we'll see if Rhode Island moves forward with this little project that they're looking at. Yeah.
I would think it would be more appropriate for the state to probably be encouraging the local housing authorities, as I said before, in seeing whether or not they can develop more properties that can be offered for people who are needing residencies.
Okay.
I don't see the state should be becoming personally involved in this element of endeavor.
We're the government, and we must be involved in your life, Bob.
No, not necessarily.
That's a very right-wing thing to say, Bob.
My part or your part?
Your part.
Wow, I got to think that over again.
All right. Well, you're
I
thinking
can't
that
believe
over.
I'm. Wait a minute. When
Agreeing
you
with
and I are together, and I'm considered to be the right wing.
Yeah, how about that?
Oh my goodness! Whoa.
All right, time for the break on Coffee and look at the forecast right now, which is being brought to you by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
Increasingly cloudy today with a high near 28 degrees and a
needs
west
Sue in
wind
here?
up to
Mike
20
really
miles
needs
per
Sue.
hour.
Mike's sister.
There's a 20% chance of some scattered flurries late in the day. Tonight, cloudy skies, overnight low of 18 degrees. Friday's weather, 60% chance of snow likely, especially in the afternoon. Cloudy skies, 27 for a high. About an inch of snow is expected. Friday night, snow tapering off, mostly cloudy with an overnight low of 12. Saturday, mostly cloudy skies and 21. Sunday, sunny and 28. Monday, mostly sunny and 36. Tuesday, partly sunny and 41. And on Wednesday, there's a chance of some rain, mostly cloudy with a high of 40.
Currently outside the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Ave and Kennedy Street, we do have sunny skies. Temperature has risen to 21 degrees. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org. This segment of Coffee and has been sponsored by the Blackstone Valley Call and Times.
You've heard it before. The world is getting smaller. Places you had to travel to years ago now seem right next door. It's no surprise, then, that all the communities of the Blackstone Valley have so much in common these days that we share common interests. Keeping up with this trend, the Blackstone Valley's two daily newspapers, The Call and The Times, have joined forces to cover the entire valley in one convenient newspaper. The Blackstone Valley's Call and Times, a paper for the entire valley. At your local store, honor box, or home delivery, 767-8522. Yes. All right, let me take a moment here to talk about Chan's Restaurant, live at Chan's, of course, at 267 Main Street in Woonsocket. 46 years of egg rolls, jazz, and blues. And coming up this weekend, here first on Friday night, tomorrow night, look out. We've got energy on stage at Chan's with Heidi Nurk's band. Been watching this young lady since she was knee-high to a grasshopper, and I'll tell you, she's got energy to spare. If you want to have a good time, try Heidi Nurk's band tomorrow night, 8 o'clock at Chan's. It's $20 for the tickets, $25 at the door. Soulful blues and R&B band featuring the vocal full-body experience of Miss Heidi. And I think that's a very nice way of putting it, too. This lady puts 110% of everything she's got into every song. Really great. At Chan's tomorrow night. Then on Saturday night, the 20th, the Earl Nightwood Band at 8 p.m. It's $15 a head, at $20 if you decide at the last minute to come in at the door. Chan's welcomes the debut of the EK Band. First time at Chan's, they're R&B and soul and blues music collaboration of professional musicians on tour, led by Ed Valley with the guitar, Scott Bronze of harp, that's right, harp, Frank Rapone on the piano and the B3 organ, Chris O'Donnell on drums, Dave McCarthy on bass, and Greg Cambio on sax and percussion. It's quite the band. Earl Nightwood, Saturday night at Chan's. Chan's, 267 Main Street, egg rolls and jams. Of course, you can always have the buffet or order right off the menu. We always do at Chan's.
Hi, I'm Kathy LaValle at The Honey Shop. Check out our Facebook page at The Honey Shop RI, and there you'll see a whole list of our new classes and lots of fun things to do. You could join us for making limoncello, pizzas, pasta making, cheese making, so many fun things to do and learn.
Thanks, Kathy. Folks, if you love food, you'll love the Honey Shop, right behind the Dunkin' Donuts at Park Square in Woonsocket.
Hi, this is Gary Smith. Join me for Do You Remember, Tuesday through Friday mornings at 9:30 here on ON Radio.
It is Coffee and here on ONAM and FM. Thanks, sir, for joining us. Joe Callahan, along with Dave Richards and attorney
Nothing
Bob
else to do.
Lauder. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Dave. Bob, it's time for your first message from your law office, please.
Before I do that, and while we're still thinking about Chan's, we are really lucky that we have Chan's to bring so many
yeah.
entertainments to Woonsocket.
Oh, sure.
Because without that, there'd be a real serious loss.
I agree. Last show I saw at Chaz was Kim Wilson. He is the lead singer for the Fabulous Thunderbirds. You may have heard of that band. And he came and did not do one Fabulous Thunderbirds song. He was just doing all his own stuff. And it was still terrific. I didn't know any of the songs, and it was still fabulous.
Great. Good. Thank you. I'll get into the commercial. This is Attorney Bob Lauder. I'd like to talk to you this morning about a couple of cases involving time. The first case was just decided last week and involves the questions of when is 30 days just 30 days? The case was entitled Malias versus Malias. The case began over a dispute as to whether or not an individual had the testamentary capacity to execute a last will and testament, or whether the individual was incompetent at that time. The case was heard in a probate court, and after the probate judge had made a decision, one of the parties filed an appeal in the Superior Court. The rules of court stated that the appeal must be filed in the appropriate court within 30 days of the probate court decision. But in this case, the 30 days ended on a Saturday. The petitioner filed on Monday, but the respondent claimed that this was 32 days after the decision and therefore defective. The petitioner claimed that he'd been filed on Friday, he would have been granted only 29 days in which to file the appeal. The case before the Supreme Court, under circumstances, is 30 days actually 29 days, or is it actually 32 days? The court ruled in favor of the 32 days. Citing a case from 1878, the court ruled, whenever by a rule of court or an act of legislature a number of days are allowed to do an act, or it is said that an act must be done within a given number of days, the day in which the rule is to be taken or the decision is made is excluded, and if one of the days occurs on a Sunday, the time with which they are counted, unless the last falls on a Sunday, is also done on the next day. This license was extended in 1937, and since the courts are enclosed on Saturdays, the 30 days actually became 32 days. If you'd like to discuss legal matters with me, please contact my office for an appointment. My name is Bob Lauder. My telephone number is 762-4550. And the disclaimer. The Supreme Court of Rhode Island licenses all attorneys in the general practice of law. The court does not license or certify any attorney as an expert or specialist in any field of practice. Thank you.
All right, Bob, why don't they just do it the easy way and say you have 30 business days or 30 weekdays? And that way that cuts out the weekends altogether.
Making things simpler and more understandable?
Yes.
Man, you don't understand the
The
concept.
law at all.
I'd be living under a bridge if things were simple.
It just
Nobody
seems
would
to
come
make,
to my
It
office.
just seems to make so much sense.
Does anybody remember when it used to be like 25 shopping days till Christmas?
Yes.
No, that's like December, well, it was actually November 30th because you can shop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week now.
Right.
But before, right, it always excluded the Sundays.
Take it up
I don't know.
at the next meeting of your lawyers, okay?
Good.
All you gotta do is
I'm
just change
not
this
going to suggest things to make it
to
simpler.
weekdays, and we're all set.
If I could come up with a way to make it more complicated and
Well, there you
force
go.
more people in through the
Well,
door,
on
that would be
on days that end in Y, you know?
okay.
All right. So, Bob, Gerard Mayo's the new head coach of the New England Patriots. Are you excited?
I'm thrilled. I can't. You got to tell me more. Tell me more.
Well, he was a player for the Patriots and a very good one. He won one Super Bowl with them, and he went to the Pro Bowl a number of times. And he was Rookie of the Year when he was here, and when his playing days were done, he became one of their coaches, and now he's been elevated to head coach.
Oh, he's been on the he's been coaching the Patriots up until now.
He's been coaching their
He's
offensive
on
line.
staff
Okay.
with other
All right.
responsibilities.
Yeah, but now he's the top guy.
Okay, so
He's
he
also-
knows the players. He knows
Yes.
the overall schemes. Good.
Yes, and he'll have his own ideas, of course. And he becomes the youngest NFL head coach going forward.
How old is he?
37.
Wow. Well, Belichick has been there for 25 years.
24,
And he's
yeah.
24, and he was in his 60s, so he must have started when he was.
He was in his 70s.
Yeah,
He's
so
in
well,
70s?
well into
Oh.
his 70s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's 71 now.
Okay, so all
He,
right, then
he started. He
in his
started
late.
right out of college being an assistant coach.
All
And
right.
that's all he's ever done is be a football coach.
Okay,
Yeah,
but this guy has actual player experience,
player experience and
as
coaching.
well as knowing the
Yes.
the particular people on this team.
Yes.
That would sound like a reasonably good
I think so.
plan.
The fans seem to be split in half. Some are like, and others are very excited. I'm on the very excited part. When a coach's changes hands, and it takes me a couple of days to process. Okay, what's going on? And all right, who's the new person? And then I get excited when the new person's here. Right? I have to accept that he's here. It's not going to change. So let's get behind the new guy and see what he can bring, and see what his youth and enthusiasm can bring. Can it translate to the players, and can we be a better team next year?
Now, there had
Certainly
been-
can't be any worse. But
Had been speculation that Belichick might go to another existing team.
yes, he's already interviewed with another
All right.
team.
If he goes to another existing team, though, he doesn't have the same kind of background knowledge of their players and their overall plans on how they operate a team, the way this guy does, who's just moving up within the ranks.
I know, but Belichick is a very smart guy, and he watches films of every single team.
Right.
So whoever decides to hire him, he'll have some knowledge of that team and their players and what their strengths and weaknesses are.
Okay. I wasn't saying this to disdain Belichick, but just to think that Belichick's going to be going into an area where he doesn't have the same background this guy has.
Right.
I would think that this guy has a much better chance of elevating the performance of the team
I
than
think so.
going in where you don't have that background.
Only because he has he's closer in age. And we talked about this last week.
Right.
Of Belichick being 71, trying to communicate with 20-year-olds. Mm-hmm. There's a real gap there. Mayo is in his 30s. He's just a few years removed from being a player himself, and he can relate better to the younger guys.
Now, how many assistant coaches do the Patriots have in normal circumstances?
10.
Wow.
There's all sorts. I mean, and it ranges from team to team. There's an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, offensive line, defensive line, special teams, safety, quarterback. There's 7 right off the top of my head. So, and there's probably more.
Okay, now,
Kicking.
why would you have so many coaches, assistant coaches on a team? You said defensive and offensive.
Because there's so much going on, especially in football. There's so much going on. It's tough to keep track of all. So Dave, you go watch the offense, and let me know what the problems are. And now Dave will report back to me. And,
All right.
and I should take his advice. Okay, this guy's not doing well. Maybe we should move someone else into his position, and that kind of thing.
But the overall coach,
Yes.
when he sees the players performing in practice and on the game day,
Yeah.
isn't he able to observe those same kind of situations? Why
Yep.
why would an assistant coach be better able to analyze that part of the game than the full-time coach?
The only thing I can think of is I was watching the movie Miracle, which is about the 1980 U.S. hockey team.
Yeah.
All right. And Kurt Russell, who played Herb Brooks, when he met the team for the first time, he said, he goes, "I will be your coach. I will not be your friend.
All right.
If you need that, talk to the assistant coach." And so it might be the same thing going on. The players have a better relationship with the assistant coach than with the head coach. So the assistant coach can be better what their mind is like in going forward, or maybe what they're physically able to do, and so they can report that to the head coach who's not particularly paying attention to that area.
Maybe doesn't have time to have that kind
Or
of
doesn't have
interaction with
time.
the team. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did get a note that was called in about this, 766-1240. Just say the mighty Boston team powerhouses have been cut in half. We're no longer the city of champions. All other sports fans in the Patriots' downfall. Patriots are in a rebuilding program. That's true. The Red Sox are a travesty. Well, we don't know that. The season hasn't started. Be ready for another punch in
But
the
they have been a
guts.
tragedy.
Well, yeah. As Sox fans will suffer through another season, quite possibly. Cinderella season is not likely for the Patriots or the Sox. We still have the Celtics, who have the best record in the NBA.
Okay.
They are the best team in the NBA right now. And the Bruins are doing very, very well as well. Not quite the best, but they've fallen a little on hard times. But they're still doing very well. So thank goodness for that. So we don't have 4 great teams. We have 2 really great teams and 2 that are kind of rebuilding at this time. But you never know, especially with football, things can turn around in one season. And maybe Gerard Mayo gets the players in he needs. Maybe they become the great or the better NFL players that they can become, and he can motivate them to play better football.
Well, don't all teams go through a period where they slip from being the greatest team to
Sure.
rebuilding? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's always cyclical.
All right.
And now we had our highs
Yeah.
for 20 years, which is really unheard of. And now we're in the valley. Okay. Do we keep going into the valley, or do we start climbing back up? Well, I hope we start climbing back up. I mean, we don't have to win. The object is always to get to the playoffs, and then we'll see what happens. So, but we haven't been to the playoffs in 3 out of the last 4 years. So
But doesn't that depend primarily on the actual players themselves as opposed to coaching? I mean,
Yes.
you can coach, but you're not
you
out
have to
there.
deliver. Yeah.
Well, the coach doesn't deliver. The coach works with what he has in his toolbox of available players, and the coach doesn't get to.
But then you got to coach them in practice to get better, to play better on game day.
All right.
I noticed that when I played, not football, but it was hockey and baseball, the coaches work with you during practice. Okay, this is what you're doing wrong, or this is what you could do better, let's say.
Okay.
Work on this. And that's what you work on during practice time. So when the game comes, you're better prepared.
All right.
And that's how the coach works with the players like that.
But the coach also has to understand that the players take time to develop those skills. You can go out there and tell
Yes.
them to, you know,
Some people
all right.
develop faster, some slower, and some just I don't get it at all, kind of thing. There were many players that came into the Patriots and were released after a couple of weeks because they just did not grasp what Belichick was trying to do.
Wow, a couple
So-
of weeks? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, you only have a little short time to get it and produce, and if you're not going to, it's goodbye. We got to go with someone else.
But-
Football's tough.
Okay, you start the season. You're a month into the season. You have player X who isn't doing very well. You want to release him. Where do you get a replacement for player X?
All teams have a practice squad of another 7 to 10 players
All right.
that you can look at every other team, and you can try to make a deal with the team. I think this guy that you have in your practice squad, I can use him on my team, and let's make a deal to get him over here.
And I have player X who's completely incompetent, and you're going to be taking him.
Well,
in-
sometimes they don't take the player; they'll take money instead,
All right.
or they'll take a draft pick next year. It gets complicated after this.
Okay.
All right, but I'm excited for Gerard Mayo to be the head coach, and I'm looking forward to next season to see what he brings and the enthusiasm he brings, and there'll be a whole new air around the New England Patriots starting next year.
Now, when
So
you were saying he was an assistant coach, what kind of assistant coach? Was
he
it
was-
offense,
he was-
defense?
he was the offensive line coach,
All right.
so
Okay.
he dealt with those 7 guys and how to block better and
Yeah.
do it the way I did it, which sent me to the Pro Bowl twice. This is how you should do it.
Good.
Kind of thing. Bob, we're going to get a second message, please, from your law office, and then take another break here on the Coffee and Program.
Good morning. This is Attorney Bob Lauder. The second case I'd like to discuss with you this morning involves the issue of daylight and darkness, and it's entitled Mish versus Montgomery. It began late on a summer afternoon in July of 1938. 2 girls were sitting on the running board of a parked car. And yeah, Joe, I remember running boards, but I never sat on one.
I don't know what those are.
I'll tell you later. A couple of kids were fooling around, jumping back and forth from behind the car, when suddenly one of the kids was hit in the eye with a projectile from a slingshot. The injured boy thought that the boy holding the slingshot was Tommy. Several of the other boys testified that at the time of the incident, the injured boy said he thought it was Tommy using the slingshot, but they could not see who was using the slingshot on account of the darkness. The injured boy said that just before he was hit, he saw Tommy and the girls sticking their heads out from behind the car from time to time, but he couldn't tell whose head came out just before he was hit. The court determined that the injured boy's testimony that he could not tell whose head came out from around the car just before he was hit nullified the validity of his opinion that Tommy was the culprit, whose slingshot projectile had hit him, and that the injured boy, due to the darkness of the twilight, was unable to prove his case against Tommy. If you'd like to discuss legal matters with me, please call my office for an appointment. My name is Bob Lauder. My telephone number is 762-4550. And the disclaimer. The Supreme Court of Rhode Island licenses all attorneys in the general practice of law. The court does not license or certify any attorney, is an expert or specialist in any field of practice. Thank you.
Poor Tommy.
Well, poor kid who got hit in
Hit in the head,
the
yeah.
eye with a slingshot. Yeah,
And what's a running board?
I'll show you pictures of it.
All right. More Coffee and program will continue right after these.
You know, when you're paying the right price for protection, you just know it. It's that warm, fuzzy, totally secure feeling, knowing that you're not only getting great coverage, but you're also not paying too much for it. And when it comes to your insurance, there's no one better at getting the right price for your protection than Allstate agents Kara and Celeste Benjamin, because they know when it comes to your bank account, every penny counts towards something bigger, something better. Like a nicer car, that home update you've been dreaming of, or a phone that's fresh out of the box. Those little or big things that we work so hard for. And Kara and Celeste Benjamin want to help you work a little less by getting you the coverage you need and the savings you deserve when you switch to Allstate. Contact Kara and Celeste Benjamin at the Benjamin Agency. One agency, 2 locations in North Smithfield and Bellingham. 765-5000 for a free quote today. Allstate, you're in good hands. And you're in good hands with Kara and Celeste Benjamin at the Benjamin Agency. Savings vary based on the average annual savings reported by new auto customers surveyed in 2019 who switched to Allstate.
Join the St. Anne Arts and Cultural Center at Cello's in Woonsocket on Sunday, January 21st from 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. for dine-in or takeout. Cello's will donate up to 20% of your check to the center. Everyone who participates will be entered into a free drawing for a $50 gift card to Cello's and other prizes. A certificate is needed and can be obtained at Bealo's Flowers, The Honey Shop, A Cut Above Hair Salon, Vos True Value Hardware, Little General on Cumberland Street, or from the St. Anne Arts and Cultural Center website. Also, meet the 2024 Mardi Gras Queen contestants.
You can depend on us for public service. ON Radio.
All right, it's Coffee and on ONAM and FM. Thanks for joining us. This is Joe Callahan here with Bob Lauder. Dave Richards is here as well, and this would bug me, Bob. I think it would bug
Really?
mostly everybody. An American man is accused of biting a flight attendant during a U.S.-bound flight from Tokyo. So it was going from Tokyo to Seattle. All right,
What in the world
this
was
is
he-
this is a long flight. Okay, an hour into the flight, the plane turns around and heads back to Tokyo because the crew members had to restrain the 55-year-old after he allegedly attacked a female flight attendant and bit her. He was detained by police once the flight landed back in Tokyo. The local Japanese media said the man told investigators he had taken a sleeping pill and doesn't recall doing anything. What kind of defense? Is that any defense? Not in Tokyo, but let's say it's in the United States.
I don't think that's a whole lot of a defense anywhere. I mean, you have the responsibility,
Of
if you're
yourself.
taking medication, you have the responsibility of knowing what the side effects may be. I would think that the side effects from whatever medication he was taking would not include that kind of aggression. I think the guy has some serious problems, and I would imagine that the Japanese courts are more severe on this kind of behavior than maybe the U.S. courts are.
Probably are.
But it's a bizarre incident, and I imagine he's been put on the no-fly list.
But to take a boat back to Seattle?
Just that's really bizarre.
Yeah. I can't. What do you figure a flight time from Tokyo to Seattle? Dave,
Nine.
Is that a 9-hour flight?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're an hour in. Okay, turn around. Now it's an hour back to Tokyo. And now you got to get the guy off the plane and
Refuel the plane.
refuel the,
And they probably take everybody off the plane.
and then so you're not landing until like 6 hours past when you thought. I'm being conservative there.
Yeah.
How annoying.
I've seen more videos on things like YouTube of passengers acting out on aircraft. I think that part of that is exacerbated by the YouTube element that people feel
wanna be
more free
famous.
to act bizarre than they used to in the past.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of strange behavior by people. Mm-hmm. People don't seem to have the same degree of decorum that we may have grown up with.
I've said this before. The people that have the most power in the United States, flight attendants. If they determine they are the judge and the jury, not the executioner, but if they determine they want you off the plane, that's it. You're off the plane. They tell the captain. Captain calls for police. Police come and get you. You get off the plane, and then you plead your case later. But they have determined if they don't want you on the plane, you're off, and that is.
But they're also responsible for the safety of a whole lot of people.
Yes, they are.
And I think under the circumstances, if they're saying, okay, Joe Callahan is causing a problem because he's expressing his political views next to Larder, and Larder's trying to beat him up, I mean, they have the right to throw us off the plane.
I would say so, which is why I'm always very extra nice to the flight attendants.
I try to be, yes.
I don't wear my MAGA hat, and not that I have one.
Oh, darn.
But I have seen that video of a guy wearing a MAGA hat, but he was the sane one, and some woman was screaming at him for wearing the MAGA hat, and she got thrown off the plane.
Should have been.
You just can't make a scene like
No,
this.
you have the lives of, 200 people aboard a plane? That's,
Yeah.
you know.
All right. So, Dave,
You going to wear the MAGA hat in here pretty soon?
I really don't have one. If you
Oh,
buy me one,
darn.
I'll wear one, Bob. All right. Go to that place in Bellingham. I'm sure they have some.
I think they do. I've been to that place. The guy who operates the store is very
Yes.
nice.
Oh, okay. Dave, a new decibel record was set at a football game.
Decibel, as
Decibel.
in sound
As
level?
in the loudness, yes.
Sound pressure level, yeah.
Detroit Lion fans were so loud, or
Yes.
are so loud and proud, they broke Ford Field's decibel record last weekend. During the wild card matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Rams, and which the Lions won,
Yeah.
it was so loud in Detroit that the volume reached 133.6 decibels. Now put that in perspective, Dave.
What does
what,
that mean?
what did it say?
133.6
Yeah.
decibels. So what's your average lawnmower? What's your average car?
Well,
Do
I
you
don't know
know?
about the lawnmower and cars, but I do know that your jet engine is basically 120.
Okay, that's what the CDC says. It's the equivalent to the sound of a jet engine.
Yeah.
And that's just from people's voices.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I remember when I was a kid and when soccer used to play at Barry Field, and my parents and I lived over on Collins Street, which is probably about a quarter mile to half a mile away. You could hear the cheering from the
Yeah?
spectators. Yeah.
Okay. Neat, huh?
I thought it was great.
It's amazing
In
that
the old days,
that
yeah.
voices can get that loud. So, but it was the first Lions win in like 30 years, maybe 40 years. So they were pretty excited in Detroit to have a playoff win.
Good.
First time they've had one in quite a while. So we've all heard about AI, artificial intelligence.
Yep.
And it's the new thing. It's the new thing coming. All right. Well, it's been a week since the opening of OpenAI's GPT store, I guess, in New York City. They've opened a store, and already users are breaking the rules and creating companions. All right? A search for girlfriend on the new GPT store will populate the site's results bar with at least 8 girlfriend AI chatbots.
Wait a minute. I'd be talking with a computer who's impersonating a girl,
Yes.
and I must have a really
But the
limited social life.
But the
if-
AI will never talk back to you and will never have an argument with you. All right.
Okay, I'm
Now the company, bans.
This is crazy,
Of course it
because
is.
anybody who doesn't want somebody to argue with them is, I think that their comfort level is poorly founded. Because this is how you learn, by interacting with other people, seeing different opinions, being persuaded to their thought.
People don't want to learn, Dave.
Well, I'm sorry. Then people don't want to get up and exercise either, but it
I
catches
know.
up with them if they don't, right?
Now,
I think I told
yeah.
you of my daughter's experience with AI a month or so ago
Uh-huh.
when we were talking at home, and my daughter knows that when I was a youth, I used to like to collect stamps.
Yeah.
And so she typed into AI to make a poem about her dad, and
Yeah.
within less than
Oh,
probably 5 or
seconds.
6 seconds,
Yeah, they have
it
it.
came back with a multi-stanza poem. It wasn't great, but it rhymed. It made sense.
Mm-hmm.
It included a whole lot of references to things that stamp collectors do, perforations and stuff like that. And it was amazing how quickly it could come back with something like that.
All right.
But
well,
as for talking to a fictitious person, I used to have a very limited social life when I was in junior and senior high school, but I was never so desperate that I just wanted to talk to myself.
Well, the company that opened the store says it bans apps dedicated to fostering romantic companionships. But people are doing it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's only going to get more bizarre
Now-
with this AI stuff.
Did you ever, in your lifetime, and probably had far better experience than I did, just want to sit and talk to somebody who wasn't really there and have your ego somehow embraced by...
in our time, that just wasn't a thought that you would have. There was always just, if you wanted to talk to someone, you talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, some people talk to their animals, but they knew they weren't going to talk back. But it wasn't, no. And people, and back in those days, if you talked to yourself, something was wrong with you.
when you tell how old I am all the time, when I hear people walking along the street and they are talking and they don't have the phone in their hand, but they're using the
the ear things. Yes.
It at first reminds me of people who have less than complete mental capacity.
Things I remember, and we do got to go soon, but things I remember, Lily Tomlin had this joke on Saturday Night Live back in the 70s, and she wanted all the people that walk the streets talking to themselves to pair them up so that it looks like they're having a conversation. I think that's a great idea.
Especially now with the AI and talking. Okay.
It'd be perfect. All right, we got to run, so thank you very much for listening in. Bob Lauder, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me. Hope to see you next week.
Come up with your good questions for the governor next week.
Yes.
Okay? All right, and Dave Richards, thanks for sticking around today.
Well, it was a pleasure. Good being here with Bob. I love listening to his voice.
Yes.
Oh,
He's got good insight.
He's so
right?
calm and reassuring.
Makes a good lawyer, huh? All right, this is Joe Callahan. Have yourself a great day. Stay tuned for Gary Smith and the crew. Do you remember at 9:30 here on ON Radio.
Broadcasting live and local daily from the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy Street. This is WOON Woonsocket Radio. And now, the news. An 18-year-old Milford man is charged in connection with a stabbing